Welcome to the Why Not podcast with me, Chrissy Hawkins. In a world where everybody asks you why, I'm here to ask why not. So sit back and relax or walk and listen and join me on this journey as we try to answer this never-ending question: what makes people say, why not? Hello, welcome back to Why Not. So today I wanted to talk all about the mistakes I've made, or I see other PTs make. Maybe it's both of us, who knows. But anyway, mistakes. I'm going to be real, which is tell you stupid things I've done over the years. I'm still probably doing stupid things. In 3 years' time now, I'll be like, here's some more stupid things I did. But that is today's plan. So I'm talking like crash dieting, fall into diet culture, training, cardio, you know, all the different things that I did over the years. Now I'm like, that was a bit silly. Hello, and welcome back to Why Not. So after much procrastination, I am recording this week's episode. I had intended to do this earlier, but do you ever procrastinate so hard on doing something that you actually end up becoming productive? And you end up like doing stuff like cleaning or reorganizing something that you've been putting off for ages because it helps you put off something else that you have to do. Anyway, that's my long way of saying today I cleaned the guinea pig cage before recording the podcast after coming home from work. But here I am here, and today I wanted to talk to you all about mistakes I have made over the years, as a PT or even before I was a PT. And I think it is good to, highlight these things because I am not a robot, I am not human. Social media tells you in order to get results, you need to be absolutely perfect, or marketing tells you that, maybe not on social media. And I wanted to show you that you cannot be perfect and still get results depending on what your results are, what you want. And a lot of the times the things we're aiming for are either not attainable or really not that worth it. But what I was going to say while I was off doing my shy talking, so basically, I don't know, I do have a lot of PT friends that I follow, and they are very open about like living that balanced lifestyle in a sense of, enjoying their life as well as enjoying training and, meeting somewhere in the middle. So I think that's great. I still think there's a lot of people who don't portray that and like make it look like that's all they do, and maybe some people do that and they just don't, maybe they don't enjoy living a bit. Not saying like, no, plenty of people don't drink. That's not necessarily because they have to for fitness or anything. Some people just don't like the effect of alcohol, or some people don't like certain foods, or they have, digestive issues and that's why they avoid certain foods. And some people do it because they think it's bad for them. And some people do it, but they're just not showing that they're doing it. And that's just kind of something I wanted to talk about. And I kind of actually, on that note, I wanted to kind of start with, this is one thing I did when I was first a PT or trying to be like, healthy, was like only showing like what I was eating or stuff like that if it was healthy. Basically, I used to take pictures of my omelets or my salad I was having in the summer, but not the chips I was having or the takeaways I was having at the weekend. Or, if I was out for pints, like, it's almost like, oh, you can't say you drink or anything like that because that's not seen as healthy, and no one will want to work with you if they think you are quote unquote unhealthy. Whereas like that's such a really bad mindset to have, because it's actually, now obviously drinking to excess or anything like that isn't a good idea, or eating excessive fast food is also not a good idea. But pretending you don't, well, one, you're lying to the clients that you're trying to attract. So that's actually in a sense false advertising. Two, I think it's unhealthy to not have any of that in your life. You need to have some unless you don't like it, or again there's reaction and stuff, but like it's not very healthy to be extremely on that one. And I suppose that's the kind of thing with social media. You can show what you want to show, and that's, you make yourself look all great, but you're secretly like scoffing crisps and chocolate in the background. You're just not showing people. And I think that is also dangerous if you are the person who's doing that, because it can kind of lead to you maybe feeling guilty, or maybe like you can end up in binge restrict cycles saying you have to stay on this one because you're on it, and then you have to end up like absolutely you end up absolutely sculling it when you're allowed to have, or when you're hiding away from it. um I just think it's better to show the wider view of everything, because you are normal, you are a human. As I said, we're not robots. I have no reason not to enjoy all types of food. Like, I'm not training for anything, I'm not on an insane cut, I don't have any particular dietary requirements, so there's no reason that I can't add garlic bread to a meal or have a burger and chips. Or, people I think are often very surprised about how much I do eat, but I also do train a lot and I have quite a bit of muscle, so that gets used. And coupling that is why I eat so much. So I think, obviously, taking into context that I eat a lot because I train a lot and I'm very active, whereas other people might eat less because they are less active, and that's okay too. But I just like to be open and say, yeah, I do have a drink, I do eat takeaways. People, the amount of times I have people say to me, oh, you probably never do that, and I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, I'm human. Fitness is not my life. Fitness is a part of my life, but it's not my life, and I'd rather it wasn't my life, because I just don't think it would be healthy for it to be my whole life. But as I said, it's a big part of my life, but it's not my whole life. Um, and I don't know. Like I said, most of the trainers I follow are kind of subscribed to mine, but I think especially maybe it's different now. I don't know, but I found when I first qualified, I felt the need to portray this, like, I am healthy, the holy art and thou kind of attitude. And I wouldn't be surprised if younger coaches are thinking the same, or trainers. And then obviously that creates a lot of guilt around, if you've got clients, they'd be afraid maybe to tell you stuff because they think they're going to get in trouble. We have the whole good food, bad food. It's not great. But yeah, I just think, be open about what you're eating, try different foods, and let others be open with you as well. And I always try, if someone tries to say that they've had a bad day or they're eating badly, I always kind of go, well, look, just one of those days, some things happen. And if you can kind of make peace with that and draw a line under the sand and come back, it won't, like, you're less likely to go off the rails next time. So I never say to someone, yeah, bad day, get back on it tomorrow. Just be like, okay, so that's happened. We have days like that. Did you have fun? That's the main thing. I don't judge to what people eat. Obviously, if they are looking for a certain goal and they're not eating towards the goal, I might suggest, do you think you would have something more beneficial towards your goal? But other than that, I'm not going to be like, no, 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 you can't eat that, that's bad. And that was like something that I like fell into for years as well. Like, I, even after I was a PT, because I suppose you kind of hear these things, these buzzwords, and you don't really, I suppose you don't really research into it. You just hear it becoming a fad almost, and you see the basic details behind it that sell it, and you're like, yeah. So, like, I used to try low carbs all the time. I got low fat. I badly calorie counted many times. I would, you know, be like, yeah, well, you're like, saying before, when my mom couldn't lose weight, I was like, well, you're not eating enough, so that's why. That's why you can't lose weight, because you're gone into starvation mode. I'm like, starvation mode's a load of bollocks. There've been plenty of things to be shown that that's doesn't really exist. And then, obviously, on the flip side, I said low carb, yeah, fine. I've done intermittent fasting. I did that for a while. And to be honest, I'm glad I don't do it anymore. I There was times before when I thought, yeah, no, it's grand. You convince yourself you're not hungry, you're fine. And here's when I've realized over the last years, when I'm like really hungry. Um, Obviously, we've heard of hunger. I get cranky, but what would happen is I'd work in the morning and then I'd go up to Sam, and I'd be either, especially when I was intermittent fasting, I'd either feel really weak and unable to do things, and I'd be like, "Why am I so tired?" Because you've nothing in your system. And then the other thing would be that I would get really snappy with him, and if he wasn't listening to me, I'd get really thick with him, and you're like, why is your temper so short? You're hungry. You may have ignored the hunger cues, but your body is telling you that you're hungry. So I think that's one thing is very important. If you do find yourself getting snappy with people or feeling like you're so low energy, that could be a sign that you need to eat more or you need to eat more frequently. And it's really, really important that we try and keep on top of that. And a lot of the time, ignoring those hunger cues won't actually help you lose weight. It'll just lead to you maybe overeating later in the day or just having a miserable time altogether. So, trying to keep those, even if you want to try and keep low calories in them, you just, bulk out your veg, have a big massive salad just to feel yourself a bit more full. These are things that we can do as opposed to just cutting out carbs. And that's something I'm never doing again because, like, you're hungry and cranky and miserable when carbs are class. Obviously, we have to be careful with our carbs, but not be careful, but um, just not eat constant carbs. That makes sense. Up your protein, keep you fuller for longer. Carbs, you'll be hungrier quicker. Nothing wrong with carbs. They're wonderful. They taste great. Cake is made from carbs. How can that be bad for you? Cake is great for your soul. Um, so yeah, that's kind of like I've definitely fallen into the diet culture stuff before I was qualified and even after I was qualified and kind of understanding everything but never applying it properly. And there was one time that I applied it properly and there is a big difference. And now for me, I don't I don't count calories. I don't monitor. I could probably do it more protein in my diet, but I kind of just eat how I feel. I try to keep myself that I'm not like ending up grabbing quick stuff because I am very lazy for that. So if I can bring like a protein shake with me to keep me going till I get home to have lunch or throw a bar or something like that, anything in my bag, these are all kind of quick go tos that I keep with me as opposed to like I live by them. I try to do that, keep myself from going and stuffing my face when I get home with anything I can get my hands on. But I found that has worked more for me than when I used to do all the diets that I never did properly and never stuck to properly. So I think it's better now. I'm more balanced in my approach and I enjoy my life and I'm still reasonably fit and yeah, I think for me anyway, and if this is something you've been struggling with, maybe it's something you could look into as well as like if you trying these diets and bouncing in and out of them and just not finding them easy to stick to, maybe just try and focus on having 3 meals a day or working on adding a few more vegetables in your diet or adding more protein to your diet and just leave it at that for the moment. And when you get the hang of that, then you can go into something different as opposed to like completely changing and overhauling your life. I talk about this loads, but I still feel like people are doing this every January. It's not going to work. Don't overhaul. Gradually do it. Um, and another thing going that was I used to do excessive amounts of cardio, and I still did that like right up until even after I was a PT. I think, but well, I suppose when I did it originally, I used to like spend hours, not hours, but like far too long on the cardio machine on an incline, just walking and sweating loads because it just sweats your fat crying and stuff like that. I used to do that so much, not so much anymore, but that was something I did, and another thing, there was a time where when I one of the gyms I worked in, I used to teach spin like 5, 6 times a week. So I suppose in that sense, like I was doing a feck ton of cardio, but like my leg training was crap because I never had any power in my legs because I was always knackered, or my legs were always knackered. So that was more of a job related thing because I used to like to stay on the bike for spin. But back before I was qualified, I would have done excessive amounts of cardio times because again, that was how you lose weight. And now I do, other than my horse riding, I might run the odd time. I do a bit of extra cardio on the side, but nowhere near as much as I would have before. Sometimes I just go walking, and I actually feel like I'm in better shape now because I focus more on lifting and trying to get more powerful. And that to me, it's been more enjoyable, and I don't spend hours walking up a hill. If I go for a walk, I go for walks I want to. I potter along. I don't really rush unless I have to be home somewhere. And other things, that kind of thing with, I horse ride because that's enjoyable and that's quite physical. And then I run because sometimes I like to make myself suffer. But that's the thing, like I don't feel like every session has to be ended with like an hour of cardio. Like I spend like 2 hours out in the gym kind of being like, okay, so I've done my weights, and I've never really pushed weights the way I needed to. So that's always, obviously, you need to challenge yourself a bit more. But then I'd spend so long on the cardio just to be like, yes, I've done my cardio. It's weird. And you'd almost get mad, like, because there's an incline trainer in the gym, and you always get mad if someone was on it. You'd be like, right, I must be over the treadmill now for a minute. Grand incline trainer. It's yeah, that I've seen a lot of people go through this as well, and they're going through so much cardio, and they're wondering why it's not changing because their body's adapted to the amount they do, and they never try to go a little bit harder or anything like that. And it's totally fine for people who are just trying to keep fit, but if you have a goal in mind, you should probably get a bit more structure. Maybe try and step away from the cardio. There is no problem with doing cardio, but like it's not going to be your be all and end all. So that was one other thing that I found that I suppose I made that mistake when I was younger, but I think it's always been sold to us. You see fat, a sweat is fat crying, but it's not. It's just your body's response to being hot. The hotter you are, your body sweats, the sweat cools you down, it stops you from overheating. That is all that does. You sweating more doesn't mean your workout has been more efficient. I know we think that, but it's actually not. Sweating is just, as I said, body's response to heat. Oftentimes as well, resistance training will promote more calorie burning over the course of the next day or two than cardio because more muscle fibers are teared and your body has to use the energy to repair them. And that's why you need to get your protein in as well, because protein is the only thing that can help you repair those muscle fibers. And by the way, muscle fibers tearing is not an issue. It's how we build more muscle. They grow back stronger. They grow back denser. It's obviously, I'm not talking about a pulled hamstring. I'm talking about the soreness we get from training. So just in case everyone was like, "What muscles tearing?" That is the answer to that one. I used to always, well as I used to always put pictures of me like um showing like my progress or whatever, and showing my training and stuff like that, and assuming that like that would just bring me clients. And I'm like, but I'm showing people I can train, so why aren't they coming to me? And that's like one of the marketing mistakes I think a lot of PTs make. It's like people don't come well, some people do come to people because they see the size of them, but I think oftentimes it's more um how like how you make them feel, or if you feel like they're speaking to you, they'll actually come to you. Not that. That's a small mistake that I think most PTs do. Like we post, look at us training. I still post pictures of me training, just to like show what I'm at and what I do. But what I do can be vastly different to what I get you guys to do. Which is always worth noting. Like I'm not expecting people I train to do what I do because I've been doing it for years, and I wouldn't expect anyone to be at that level. Um, though a lot of us do seem to expect we should be at a level really quickly, and we're surprised that something we haven't done in ages is really hard, or have never done is really hard. Um, but that's a talk for another day. I think I've covered that before as well. But do remind yourself that like be happy to be the beginner. Like beginner is great because you can learn so much. And don't focus on other people around you because they're not paying attention to you. So you're better off not paying attention to them. That's just a little side note there. But yeah, I used to follow this profile, like my what you call them progress pictures, and kind of be mad if they didn't look like amazingly different. I don't really do that anymore. The odd time I might have a photo, but that's just more my own records, I suppose. And again, it was always looking at like how flat could I get my stomach? Did I look right? Getting the right angle? And it's just like it's kind of silly in a sense because it's all well and good me having this shape, but like nobody's looking at me like that a lot of the time. So it's literally you're just posting out for validation, which is fine. Some of us want that validation. I did, but I think looking at how like people are gonna see you mostly in normal clothes, so they're not like looking for your abs or looking for your muscles. So it's just kind of a weird thing, not weird thing to do, but a kind of pointless in a sense, I suppose. Is the best way of doing it. Um, Another issue that I did, and I think a lot of PTs have this as well, especially those who maybe have done some form of big transformation and they become a PT off the back of that, is basically think there's one way to do things. So I know this is a bad saying, but there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat or something like that is the saying. But basically, it's the same when it comes to training. There are so many different types of training you can do, so many different ways you can do it, so many ways you can eat, so many ways you can change, and that like what suits people differs from person to person. So because me lifting heavy and doing a bit of running has worked for me, not worked in a sense, but it's what I do, and eating the way I eat like works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. So I think these blanket prescriptions, and even how you do an exercise as well, I want to put that one in there as well. Like there is no like a blanket that is absolutely across the board 100% right. Something could be right for me, could be right, not right for different. Like we forget as well, not only are we different, gender, age, size, shape, but like our actual anatomy is different. So my hips could move different to your hips. My like shoulders, mobility, all these different things are different from person to person. So you can't say without a doubt that this is the exact way that everyone should do it. And that never changes. And people are very quick to correct you on social media, which is quite interesting. When you have people telling you you're doing something wrong, like say I've had people tell me I put up a deadlift video that like I was doing wrong, ego lifting, but once you're in control, a lot of the time it's totally grand. Now, obviously, when you are PTing people, you have to be careful, and we don't want them to injure themselves. It's fine if I put my back out, but not if I did it with a client. But again, doing all these saying you have to do it this way, you have to do this makes no sense because no two people are the same. So why should everybody's training to be the same, everybody's diet be the same? If that was the case, everything would be sorted by now. We wouldn't have people with issues with obesity, or people who are getting multiple injuries doing something, or people who, bouncing in and out of the gym. If there was one way of doing everything, it'd be cracked by now and everyone would know how to do it and they just get it done. I think, hopefully. People are still lazy, so maybe not. Not always lazy, sometimes busy, sometimes other things get in the way. I'm not saying just because you don't train doesn't mean you're lazy. It's just, I think we have to be mindful of that, and it can be very dangerous to think this is just a one way because you shut out other ways, and potentially one way is going to work better for you than the way that you're doing it, but you won't do that because it's the only way of doing it. And then, as I said, with like coaches and stuff like that who come out into the industry saying like they maybe did mad transformation, this is how they did it, or they did this, that, and the other, and they are selling that like cookie cutter plan that works for them to their clients, and clients mightn't be getting the same results and they don't know why, and the coach is blaming it back on them because it worked for them. I'm not saying many coaches do it, but some probably do. There is, like, I do know out there are people who maybe aren't even qualified, haven't really worked with general population, but this worked for them, so that's what we do. And it can, as I said, it doesn't always work for people. As I said, that goes with exercise, it goes with diets as well. Some diets work for people, some people don't. Some people swear by them, others people hate them. You often see people who go on certain diets suddenly think is the best thing ever because I feel so great, I feel so energized, and all this. When oftentimes, say for instance, if it was a keto or like a vegan diet or whatever, they've cut out a lot of the processed food or a lot of the like heavy stuff that I'd be eating so much, and now they're replacing it with more vegetables or like more rounded diet, and that's why they feel so good because they're like, oh, my digestive system is running properly. And you could do that without cutting out all food groups and still being able to enjoy stuff you normally do. So you have to remember that as well. Like, it's not necessarily, oh, this is the diet, this fixes everything. It is, how was I eating before that and how was I eating now? Is there more vegetables in my diet? Is there more like protein in my diet? Is there more fiber in my diet? That's probably the answer as to why you feel so good, as opposed to this diet fixes everything. And people are very quick to label that as the be all and end all when actually it's not. And I did mention about commenting on other people. Now, I never would say to someone or go on someone's page and make a comment, because you're kind of looking at one thing in context. Like, you don't really get context. You might see something, and you might see someone be like, oh well, their squat could be deeper, that could work better, blah blah blah. But like, maybe the person that they're training don't have the mobility, and they're working on building to that. So coming out and like doing these kind of comments don't really work, because you are, as I said, taking one script snapshot. You've no context. You don't know the client. You don't know the trainer. You don't know what's going on. So it's very easy to judge what they say or what they're posting. And I would have been bad for this, but I've never commented on them. But I would have said it in my head. So now, anytime I see something, often as well, it's just because you're jealous, you end up saying it or thinking it in your head. So now, when I catch myself doing that, I kind of try to look at, like, well, what is the context here? Am I just deciding that? Do I know the history? Like, as I said, you don't know the client, you don't know what's going on, you don't know their injury history, you don't know anything like that. So just because it doesn't look perfect doesn't mean it's wrong. So with these people, you're trying to work on bettering them, and you can't really do that without these like, you can't do that without starting somewhere. Or again, working with how they work, like how their body works, is really important as well. Because of that, we shouldn't be judging what we see on the internet. So if you see someone doing something, you think that's wrong, you should probably, as I said, look for the context. You can't, like, go ask their PG, ask their medical history, ask them why they're doing it. Don't do that. That's GDPR issues. But before you make those decisions, snap decisions, and trying to decide on that, which is something I did before, remember that you don't have the full story, and you can't comment on it, to be honest. So that was something that I thought was really important to say, and something that I have been bad for, and I do try to catch myself. And again, a lot of the time this comes from jealousy, not actually anything constructive. You are just jealous that they are putting up stuff there, they're showing their clients, and you're mad that you're not doing that, and you just want to be like, oh yeah, well, they're not doing it right, because then it makes you feel better. And that's literally as far as it goes, I think, when it comes to these things, because often people try and put people down when they are jealous. It's not you never see someone who's doing well dragging others down. So I think it's really important to remember that, and just support everyone. Realize that there's probably a reason that they're doing that, and if there isn't a reason, well, just thank God they're not your trainer. And I think with that as well, there's I think a problem that a lot of people, and I think myself, was part of the reason I came into this game as well, is that, like, just because you like training doesn't mean you're going to be a good coach, because there's a lot more to coaching and training and working with people than just giving them exercise and telling them not to eat a cake every day or something like that, or burgers every day. I don't know, who knows. There's more, like, people are going through stuff. It's why they go training. People talk to you. You find you're hearing a lot of underlying issues that people might even realize that they're underlying, and you have to learn how to talk to them. Part of the reason I went into training is because I also like teaching, but I don't like children, so that kind of helped. But again, you're here to support your clients. You're not here to judge them and give out to them, and that's the issue with some people. I think people are coming in going, I'm good at training, so I'll become a coach. We forget how difficult this job can be, because it's very like hands on. You are with people. You're constantly kind of switched on, and that can be draining and tiring. So you have to have the right mentality for that. Like, you don't want to get snappy with people. You don't want to be getting thick with people. You need to be able to understand that, like, people are expecting you or looking to you for help, and the best you can do is help them, and try to think about how you're talking to people and try and educate them in the best ways, as opposed to giving out to them, telling them they're wrong. And you know it's just all about supporting people, and that is a big part of our job. So you have to have that empathy element as well. And again, I said part of the reason I originally came into this was that I just was good at coaching, and I thought, yeah, or sorry, I was good at training. I thought, yeah, this is the next logical step. But it's a vastly different than what I expected, and I don't regret it. By the way, I really do enjoy what I do, and it's a hard job, but it's definitely very rewarding seeing people do things they didn't think they'd ever do, being really happy with their progress, and just feeling more confident about themselves and everything. Like they're the kind of things that like light me up, and they're the reasons I keep doing this. I just love seeing people happy and enjoying their job or what they're doing and the training, and people, especially people who don't like the gym, coming in and eventually like becoming like really, really like part of the community and really enjoying it. And that's why I love about small gyms as well. We have that real community element. I've worked in mostly small gyms since I started. I went from one extreme to the other, and where I am now is probably my favorite way to be. So I think that is it. There's a few admissions of mistakes or things I got wrong over the years. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get plenty more wrong over the next couple of years, because the thing about this job is you're always learning. It's great that you have the opportunity constantly learning, and things are constantly developing in the science world that help us learn more. And that's another thing, like if you think you're ever done learning, you're probably not in the right job, because you'll never stop learning and finding like, and that's one of the fun things about this, like you have to keep learning and growing and keeping up with what's going on. So yeah, I think, as I said, if you're ever think you've learned everything, you probably need to change or move on, because you shouldn't think you know everything, basically, because you don't know everything and you never can know everything. But with that, I am going to leave you all. Thank you for listening. As ever, you can find me on Instagram. It's Chrissy H Fitness, or my other Instagram is Strong in the Saddle. So that's my equestrian fitness page. So it's Strong in the Saddle _. I'm also on TikTok with that one. It's Strong in the Saddle without the underscore. And then my website is www.chrissyhawkins.com. If you want to find out anything about working with me or anything like that, even drop me a question or drop me a DM if any of these resonated with you or you are interested in asking more about them. I'd love to chat. But thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. I really do appreciate everybody who listens to this podcast. So if you please could help me with the algorithm and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And even, if you want to reach out and suggest topics for me, I'd be delighted to hear from you. Drop me a DM on Instagram or TikTok. And thanks again for listening.